Welcome. It's good to know you're on the other side of the screen, joining us for yet another exhilarating episode of Jasiri, your go-to destination for insightful conversations and all-around juicy news. Good morning to you and also to my beautiful ladies of Jasiri. Kat, we missed you yesterday.
I will catch a grenade for you.
You see?
That's why. As in the cutoff.
No, I'm so sorry.
It is interruptus.
But Tolu,
I don't like it.
when you make
You know what I mean?
Wow. When you make your general intro and you talk your talk, if it's on emotional space and how we feel about one another, speak for yourself. You missed her. Me, it was non-consequence. No consequence.
Lolo kept shouting, where's Catherine? Where's Catherine? Where's
Don't be
Catherine?
deceived by this.
Don't listen to what she's saying.
Catherine, so anybody would say that to you, you'd believe
I
it.
will believe it 100%.
It depends on what you're giving me at that time. Are you giving me a lot of money or love?
And when I told you I wanted to give you money last week, you people were shouting.
I had to align with Tolu.
No, I said that
Tolu said money answers all things. So
In any case, it's always a pleasure to be here, ladies, really. And to make up for my absence yesterday.
you'll be giving everybody granite bottles free.
Or is it money?
Juicy granite bottles.
I came with juicy info. You know I'm the one with the info now. Hot
Okay.
topics, I'm the one that Gina.
It's called amebo. Don't try and quantify it.
What's your flavor?
But you need a moment to savor the flavor of this information.
Savor the flavor.
Savor
Savor the flavor.
That sounds
Let's
like
hear
a,
it
that sounds like a
now.
me
Why the
thing.
suspense and the mouth smacking?
Guys, I don't know what you're thinking, but first off, Lagos State government is launching a program allowing residents to buy subsidized basic food items starting from this weekend. Things like beans, bread, rice, gari, eggs, onions, pepper are among the subsidized items. Lagosians are getting a 25% discount on the food items, with the government covering that discount with the vendors. Markets will operate exclusively on Sundays in each local government area. I like it. If we can be organized.
Exactly, because look at if you're looking at this video in front of us, this is not of what is supposed to start happening on Sunday, but it shows again one of the instances. I think this is the rice situation, which unfortunately we know we heard. Did we ever confirm the rumors of the deaths? Nigeria.
No, I think this is the one that one local government chairman was given. I think Ajeromi Ifelodu. I'm thinking that's the video.
I want to believe that with this initiative, they would take a cue from these things that have happened in the past and maybe make it more organized, because we keep saying that it's not the government's responsibility, it's the people to stay organized. You cannot make them stay organized. So what do you do on your own part? Is it that you give people different times or just make it different locations or something, just to make sure it's more organized?
But the thing is, organization is not rocket science. We don't need a scientist to map it out. If there's a location that you want people to come, it's either you're going to ask people to come in tens and put Mopo and all at the gate.
Exactly.
Once you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, go win. When they're done with you, come out, then the next 10.
I know we have a problem really with being organized.
Have I not been saying it?
Actually,
Have I not been saying
we have
it?
a problem.
They can give you a
but
contract.
it's
I'm
not-
very
we're
good
not-
at organizing people.
Even the BRT line that usually can be organized, sometimes it's disorganized.
We are not
And
unbendable, let's not lie.
Somebody has to stand in front. There has to be a leader. Somebody has to volunteer.
An
to stand
enforcer.
And say, an enforcer.
Exactly.
And say, okay, like Lola says, the first 10 people stand this way. After the first 10 people, we put that Ziploc bag. That band.
Barricade.
Don't move past this area. But we just need to be treated like Nama. And sometimes
Or
that
maybe
in
there is-
itself is tiring.
No, but Catherine, you know, it's like when you're cooking with coal, charcoal stove. There's the smoke from the struggle you used to get the rice can actually bring some sweetness to the
spice.
Versus when you're cooking easier. But yes, I will appreciate the government, the Lagos State government for this. It's much needed. And you know they had started with the Sunday market that's in Mushin. Now we're seeing this going around to all the local government areas in the state. I worry about it only being on Sundays, being able to attend to as many people in each local government that will come out. I hope there are plans in place for security, not because of anything, but just to keep things orderly and smooth. But at the end of the day, how long do we want to do this? This doesn't touch on what is causing the food inflation. It doesn't touch on what's causing the economic crisis for many Nigerians. appreciate the movement and the action by the government, but it's a band-aid.
Yeah.
It's a symptom. It's a solving the symptom and yet not going to the root cause of whatever the diagnosis is. And that's not on them per se.
Yeah,
but
the root cause we need to attend to it. The root cause. If not, we're just going to be floating like sleeping on a bicycle.
How long can we keep this up?
No,
I mean, I would say that I appreciate the effort of the government, but without trying to sound insatiable or anything, who put us there in the first place? I mean, it's like they say when a rat is biting your leg and then blowing breeze on it. So, hey, thank you, but no
you know that
thank you.
rat? Have you seen that rat?
Before you know it now, this subsidy, you know that I don't want to play it, I just want to play the devil's advocate for a minute. This subsidy, they'll start saying that the government is covering for something. Is that not another leeway for corruption? Before they tell us that they use X amount of money to come and do subsidization of food during the hardship.
Therefore.
Before we know it.
Lolo has a point in which a point that demands transparency and accountability. Who are these vendors?
Which we never
How are you
get.
selecting the vendors? Are you going to change vendors every weekend? So this also goes around all the potential vendors. Do they need to register with you? So they're going to give you, the vendor's going to tell you that a yellow paint bucket of tomato costs this much with me. I'm going to give it to the people who come at this much. Or government, you owe me 25% of my cost. How are we making sure it's a competitive rate and government is not? So there are questions we appreciate. There are questions that I hope that by Sunday, or at least after the very first one happens, we see answers and we see how government does this. And then they adjust. They make adjustments as they go.
That Sunday that Tolu talked about earlier, that Sunday mightn't work because, you know, we're on a throne umbrella. We are very many in Lagos.
And we're very hungry.
I'm telling you.
very
So with that, how do you even expect organization?
Yeah.
Because everybody is now
one
trying
day-
to
Well,
rush.
blessings.
Yeah.
Why are you getting into this discussion? I thought you were above us that need to scramble for food. I thought you said you ate only chin-chin at night. And you don't need physical food to survive.
Oh my God, it's okay. So what does she need to survive?
She said she
After
eats chin-chin.
That scramble way they scramble. I mean different.
But still speaking
I'm
of
at the
food,
front of it.
guys, still speaking of food, I'm beginning to dislike our Proco doctor a lot.
Yeah.
Did you see the eye-opening video that our Proco doctor actually put out on the potential health risks of consuming pomo? Will this stop people from consuming pomo? But we need to take a look at this video. Very instructive.
This kind of pomo is actually sweet. Especially when they soak it inside stew.
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
But this kind of pomo is actually a problem. When they are roasting this pomo, they usually burn a lot of tires in order to give this pomo its characteristic color and its characteristic taste, in order to make it as soft as this. The problem is when you are burning tire contains a lot of substances that can cause cancer. And then those substances are already inside this pomo. Yes, this one that you like specially. When you eat it, what do you expect to happen? To get inside your body and do the work that the tire that was meant to be on the road is not inside your body is meant to do. So don't look at me and now say, hey, a Proco doctor is banning pomo. All I'm saying is that pomo can be prepared better than this. See, this is Emeka's shoe that he's supposed to wear. Look at Nkechi's handbag that she's supposed to use. Please, Nigeria needs exports. Let's be exporting our pomo rather than eating. I know that some of you are already asking nonsense questions that people usually ask. Hey, a Proco doctor, after shooting this video, what happens to the pomo? Let me now show you what happens to the pomo.
I don't understand.
Proco doctor, one of these days, you better not walk around Lagos without security. Because you'll be kidnapped.
He will come and defend all his stance in that
Like,
there.
honestly, I'm feeling for pomo right now because it's like pomo cannot please anybody, especially in Nigeria. Some years ago they said, "Oh, pomo has no health benefit," but it was still thriving. It said, "Whatever they say, I rise above." Now yes, you said it had no health benefit. Now you're saying it's dangerous. What can pomo do?
Nothing.
To please you.
Pomo will still win. My people, a Proco doctor, it's okay.
No,
So
they will tell you that we will no longer burn tire.
No.
We'll be burning wood.
Yes, it's all right. A Proco doctor, we thank you.
And what did you do with that pomo?
I will soak it in hot water.
Well, if everybody-
I put salt in it, kill the toxins, add pepper to spice it up.
Sprinkle of anointing oil.
Maybe throw in some onions, you know, like
The onions are a must.
you know, the onions are a must. Caramelize one or two things. After that, I can't. You know, the pomo will now be looking. You know, when you use the fork to push the pomo will outside.
The pomo no, you do the pomo will giggle like cat.
And you know why I like Nigerians? Nigerians have solutions to everything. I remember one time.
That special season.
I remember one time there was a tweet that they said boiled yam has a lot of calories, fried yam also has a lot of calories, and somebody said, that's why me I pound the calories out of it.
I pound the calories out of the yam. Honestly, I was a pro doctor. Sometimes you can be good. But Oversabi wants to kill you.
He's killing you.
Me that I'm thinking of the sauce to add to that soup. You know when pomo is in your soup, the vegetable food, it takes an elevated taste.
Now drink that oil.
Flesh and blood did not reveal that to you.
No. You guys are missing. You know that when the pomo is in the food, you know how sometimes the sauce will hide inside the crevice. Inside the crevice. That's what I'm looking for. It will hide inside that inner roll. Therefore, will hide inside the inner roll. What's the other one? Iru will hide inside the
So
wow. I have advice for you guys. Now, for those of us who want that guaranteed and trusted seasoning that gives your meal all the sauce and flavor, all the seasoning. Hey, who sang that song? All the seasoning you desire. Drum roll. Show some love to Noor for being our very trusted kitchen companion that adds that extra burst of flavor to our meals. This egusi
He's calling my name, and there's no inside.
He's calling my name.
Now add
you say egusi. He's calling my name.
The unsung hero of our kitchens, please, you have to give it up for. There's nobody, I want to ask, there's nobody, you know, in all honesty, honestly, gospel, I have tried to use other spices.
And not they work like that.
It's not quite.
You know, they entering.
So let me tell you, I wasn't using it before. I stuck with what my mom, because you find out a lot of these things we pick up from others. My friends were just using it and Ricky recommended. I was like, what's going
the
on?
chicken one.
I've not changed in 5 years.
I have a lot of other seasonings
you use
in my
it in
house,
your chin-chin
but once Noor.
No, but it might give it an elevated save. No, so people actually like.
Please let me drop my hand.
3-5. Oh, well,
for you guys, I don't eat just chin-chin. I cook. Okay, I enter the kitchen,
so
not
much
just
so that
chin-chin.
your brother was surprised to see you last week.
Don't listen to them. I was about to say that. I have like other seasonings in my house. But you see, when Noor finishes, I feel like I don't have anything. I run to the market. You see, Noor is there to nourish you.
Listen to me.
We're going ladies, we need to go on a break. We finish and she has nourished us. All right, guys. We're going to go on a quick timeout now. You can see we're off to an energetic start on Jasiri. We'll be going on a short break, and when we come back, this topic, the politics of women's reproductive rights.
Yes.
You want to grab a snack, stretch your legs, but you definitely don't want to touch that remote. Stick around.
Welcome back to Jasiri. Don't forget to follow the conversations across all our socials. We are at News Central Television, and also use the hashtag Jasiri so we know that you're watching. Now, they said not to touch the remote, but at this point, if at all you want to touch it, it should be to put the volume on max, because now we're delving into a topic that's as complex as it is crucial: the politics of women's reproductive rights. That's right. It's a conversation that touches on so many aspects of society, from healthcare to ethics to human rights, and it is a conversation that is very, very crucial to have. It's happening not just here in Nigeria, but also around the world. And we've got a fantastic guest joining us today to help unpack it all. Dr. Abosede Lewu, a trailblazer in the field of women's health and advocacy, and she is a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist. She's here to shed some light on the complexities of this issue and what it means for women everywhere. So, welcome to Jasiri, Dr. Lewu.
Oh, hi. Well, I have to be like a fan for like 10 minutes. Thank you, ladies, for having me.
You look amazing, by the way.
I wish I could just.
I know, right?
No, we've already spoken. We have an unspoken rule between us,
Yes.
which is such sisterhood.
You and everybody.
Everybody, no one wants to do them like this. Are you the only one?
Who doesn't want a doctor, a gynae as your bestie?
That's what she had.
I don't have to pay.
Take that back. Real quick.
I wanted to get into something else, but let's get into the business of the day. I was gonna quickly ask, do you have friends who take advantage of the fact that you're A doctor? Yeah, because what she said, having
hi, Dr. Lewa, I'm having menstrual pain. What should I use?
Well, they're friends and they're friends. So it's not like an advantage thing. It's just part of the blessings of the love, the what you do. Like there'll always be pro bono service. Even people that are not necessarily your friends, they're people that you just have to help. It's one thing that's sort of ingrained into most of us. Oh. But I also have amazing friends who just because they want to pay for your services, they don't even ask you directly. Like they do it through the formal route. Then when you meet them in person, you're like, oh, don't worry, we're going to support you.
I like they want you to stay in business.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're going to support you.
God send those friends my way.
To your teaching business.
All right, so getting into the business of the day before we get into what we're talking about, the politics of reproductive rights, let's take a look at some background on why this is so important.
So, I mean, sometimes in practice, you get a bit frustrated by this. When we say reproductive rights, it sounds like a very big topic.
Yeah, I know.
But what the reality of it is that it's just such an ingrained part of our day-to-day living for women that you see that a lot of issues that could have been prevented and complications, just because we don't exercise that right, we come down with them when it's too late, or we finally find the voice to fight for that right when it's too late. And I say that it is so important starting from a girl's life. We have conditioned ourselves to think that pain and discomfort is natural for girls and women. So I part of what I do that I'm very committed to, because I'm a mom of a lot of girls as well, is let's first start normalizing pain for girls. So when we talk about reproductive health rights, there are parents and there are girls, they have daughters and wards that have been experiencing severe menstrual cramps since they were young. But they do not have the right to complain, or they are not taken serious, or they are not taken to seek health care. That's, just think about the first, second decade of life. And then we now move to the other, I'm now older, maybe I'm in higher institution, I can go for care. There is now the right to ask for care, ask for contraceptive, ask for this, and then they meet barriers at that level too. Why are you asking for this? You're too young to be doing that. And then we now have, when we get into our full reproductive health years, either you want to expand your family, there's also the right you can exercise without a partner, without people asking you questions, even in the society, as to why you're trying to exercise this right. Or you choose not to exercise this right. I don't want to have a family. And then people begin to question you. And then you move into your 40s as well, when you're preparing for menopause. You want to, it's like an ongoing, like you're feeling every single phase of your life, your right is being questioned, and you're having to defend it, even when you don't know that's what you're defending. When we talk about menopause for women, nobody understands that menopause affects your productivity at work, and nobody's making room for you.
Wow, Dr.
to
Leo,
manifest there.
honestly,
so it's really crazy, like it's everywhere.
I kept watching you just talk, and you were just scanning the room and talking about all the girls on the table, those that are that are just about to get into their periods and everything, and those that are ending theirs, It's just crazy, honestly. But really, that's on it. When you were talking, I was really enjoying some of the things you were saying, because it's important. Every light or every season of our life, there's something really major. And in Africa and Nigeria narrowed down, we have so many cultural norms that affect our societal expectations of how women are even supposed to deal with their own reproductive health. Just let's start from the time that when we were getting our periods. Like, my mother would say, she started me out from cotton wool, because that was what her mother handed down to her. And, the issues of, to even discuss it, it wasn't like my mom would say, she just told me, something will come out of your wherever, when it comes out, don't be afraid, but don't let any man touch you. So, but as simple as that instruction was, I cannot tell you how I was traumatized. I walked to school when it's my period time in school, and we had a school bus. But because I felt it was ingrained in my head that if boys touch you, you're going to have a baby. So I used to walk to school, and I would not attend classes because I just didn't want to interact with boys. I was really afraid, because it's not like somebody sat me down to say, this is really, but later on, when we now started having biology, that was when I really got into the knowledge. And all the other things that you talked about, for me, I didn't even know premenopause had so many issues until I personally started going through it. And I had to start asking questions. Why are my hormones up and down? Everybody, would have no answer. But I even got answers from Oprah. Oprah, I saw one of Oprah's special, and she said she had gone to a lot of doctors. She was having heart palpitations and things. But I said all this to say, what can we do? Because culturally, we in Africa are bound. So how do we begin to dispel some of these myths that are thrown around? They even say you can't even talk about such things. I know a man that will not even discuss with you. When you want to say menstrual period, say I'm a prince. I don't talk about that. And he has daughters.
Dr. Level, please answer that question.
I always say that for any institution to change, it starts from the family, the smallest unit. And I say that because one of the conversations we're having in the dressing room was the power of saying policy changes. That is easy to draft policies. It's the implementations of these policies that really we call into questions. So how do we normalize this conversation? You have an honest conversation with yourself. Are you able to talk to a girl who comes to you and asks you these sexual and reproductive related health questions? Like how do you, I've had a lot of parents, part of the service that I offer is to talk to children or girls through adolescence. Like you see parents actually panicking and coming to say, what do I do? I don't know how to talk to her. So it's to first gain the skill to talk to your children about things like this. Normalize these conversations. And you don't have to wait until they start their period because you'll be shocked at what their friends have told them. So I'm going to give you an example of myself and I have 2 younger sisters. So we were kind of older and apparently my sister, who's older now as well, a friend had told her that anybody that menstruates, not the word menstruate, anybody that sees blood is a witch. And she believed it. Like she actually internalized that information. And I remember the first day she saw her period, what she was screaming, we just heard her screaming in the house that she's not a witch. Apparently that friend had told her that we were not witches, our older sisters are witches, and they actually believed all of that. And then we had to like re-educate her that, oh no, that's not what it is. But it sounds easy, but that was how she was orienting within her friends and their circle. And like you said, I mean, we all got the message of, now that you're seeing your period, the man touches you.
Touch you, you're pregnant.
Again, parents trying to do their best to help you with teenage pregnancy and make sure you don't get that. But not understanding that transition from you being able to interact with the opposite sex without being aware. Suddenly when your period starts, like you said, you don't want to sit by their side. You don't want to interact with them. All of this starts to encroach into your growing process. So I say for parents, it's for us to first read about all these sexual and reproductive health rights. It's really when you have daughters within you, read about them. If you're uncomfortable with them, seek out professionals that know how to have these conversations with them. One of the things we've been doing lately, because apart from being a practitioner, I run a nonprofit, is we have 2 levels to help with this. We're creating a chatbot that parents are supposed to experience and hand over to their daughters that addresses most of these puberty-related issues. And then, of course, partnering with schools to have like a project where we want to have not only teachers, even school prefects that are like period captains that are walking junior students through this process, that this is how period feels. So it's really the policy starts with us. That's what I mean. It's not necessarily, even if government says it, some parents can't face their daughters and have this conversation. So you have to, and then, power comes from knowledge. So the more the parents know, the more they can empower their daughters.
Okay, very quickly, I just want to, in terms of debunking myths, I want to ask a question that I've heard this so many times, and at some point in my life, I did believe it. So let's just clarify once and for all. For those people who see their periods, right, a lot of times they're skeptical about using pills because they've told us, I won't say them, that when you use pills, it affects childbirth. Please, is it myth or fact?
So it is a myth, or it is a misinformation, because this information usually comes from people's previous experiences. People will tell you I've been on pill, but you don't know the diagnosis of why they were on pills. Now, I always tell women that when you want to get on contraceptive or family planning, the greatest disservice you can do yourself is to do what your friend is doing, because the whole idea is for you to have all the options of family planning or contraceptive and decide which one suits you. What do I mean? So for a woman that wants to space her family or is not ready for pregnancy and just wants to wait for 1 or 2 years, there are other things to consider when you're picking a choice. As opposed to someone that says, see, after this one, that's the end of the road. I don't want to have children. Or someone that just wants like a short break. What is your background health information? What are the other conditions you have that can affect the choices that you make? So it's not necessarily, oh, my friends are using pills. They didn't get pregnant. They had problem afterwards. Then if I do the same thing. Yes, if you go to a family planning counselor, they will tell you this may not be the best option. They give you all the options, the pros and cons, and you sort of come to a place where you find the one that is most suitable for your own. So it's a myth in a way, but it's more of Chinese whispers, wrong information passing down from people's individual experience. And as we all know, women are different. Like we all have different.
I like the fact that we landed on this contraception part of the conversation, because it's a large fight that many women around the world are facing. We've seen what happened in France that has now enshrined abortion rights, and we're going to get into that. But we've seen what's happened in the US as well when it comes to contraception. Women who say they don't want children at all, doctors are telling them, oh, what about if you meet a man, you're choosing a potential, maybe non-existent man over a woman's decision. But when we come to Nigeria, there will be young women who are sexually active, but they want to take that control. They go to these centers. They're either mocked out of the centers, they're insulted or disgraced out of the centers. If you're married, they might tell you to bring your husband to make that decision, not knowing that in even some situations, pregnancy is used as a form of abuse. It's a tool for, unfortunately, some men to keep women financially dependent on them. So when we come to reproductive health rights and this conversation around access to contraception, how do we bridge what ends up being sometimes cultural, religious, let's be honest, there's a religious factor for many people who are meant to serve women in this capacity, there's traditional and all these other factors, but it's because women's reproductive years are some of the most important, crucial, longest years of their lives as well.
So the battle in contraceptive is global, like you said. It's not domiciled to only Nigeria. In fact, one of the things I always complain about is that when we talk about contraceptive prevalence rates, even as a definition, we define the unmet needs among married women. So single women are sort of already disenfranchised. Now, I think from the data that we have last, over 48% of sexually active unmarried women have unmet contraceptive needs. Now, for the cultural norms, I will say, whenever you're navigating the journey of changing people's behaviors and culture, is to understand that when you're having the conversation with them, their bias comes from what they hold true. So we have a purity culture. Yes. That is the truth. Yes. And then people bring in their biases into their spaces where they work. So a woman that believes that a woman that is not married, or a man that believes a woman that is unmarried should not be engaging in sexual activity, sometimes struggles with handing you contraceptive. And as you know, a lot of people bring their biases into their work. So how do we begin to change all of this? One of the beauties of internet and the life getting better for us is that people can now navigate services anonymously. That's one thing I would say works for young people, because it's been a challenge. I've actually experienced as a doctor when I was working in one of the tertiary institutions that when young girls finally muscle up the courage to say, I want to have contraceptive, the person they meet will be telling them, you're playing with your future. You're doing this, you're doing that. And at the end of the day, some of them actually get sort of muscled out. And it doesn't change their mind. Because I say, because you're doing overlapping duties, these moral values are taught by parents. Yes, they are taught by religious leaders. And then when you as the healthcare workers take on that role as well, sometimes it doesn't convince them not to be sexually active. It just makes them reckless at doing it.
Yeah.
So there are now many brands that provide sexual reproductive or contraceptive services to young people. And also to know that contraceptives in itself is still a very deep area of research. Quite a number of existing methods. Some women, none of them works for them. Like they can rarely find the one that is suitable for them. Not like it will work a little. So it's still an area where research is ongoing. Some women do walk in. This is what they want, but by the time this one you are excluded from this. That one
everyone never worked.
That one exactly. And then you now have also because of the kind of marriages that we also have, where we also both parents or both couples have to be on the same page. It's not like maybe a woman is on contraceptive and a partner does not know about it. People's biases also come in there. So it's quite difficult, but it's just for people that need it to seek online options to find, it's a good research. Like, where can I get, if you try hard enough, you will find where you will get your services.
I like that you mentioned purity culture. Yes. Because I grew up in the US in the heat, not in the heat, towards the end of that purity wave that they had. And it's here because we are a conservative society. I remember on radio, I had a conversation once and we were talking about sex education. Are you willing to let the state teach your child? I had so many parents call me. The fact that I'm even talking about it on radio, I'm exposing their children, I'm encouraging their children to have sex. Meanwhile, when I went through the definitions of the abbreviations children used to chat, people's eyes were open. They don't know what their children are up to. So when we look at sex education, comprehensive sex education programs, it's a problem because we have the religious. Again, we keep coming back to this religious and cultural I don't want to call it biases, but constraints at this point now. Are you an advocate for public public comprehensive sex education in schools? Because let's be honest, parents are failing. They're trying, but as you said, there are parents who, they say that my father and mother never talked to me about the birds and the bees and I'm fine. I didn't end up with an unwanted pregnancy. So when it comes to empowering young children early enough to be able to know their body parts, there are children that do not, at 10 years old, they do not know the real name of their body parts. And so when we talk about sex education, people think it's about how you're encouraging children to have sex. No, it's about knowing the real name of your body parts. It's about knowing that you shouldn't be touched a certain way. There are places that are private and they're public. How do we get people on board? Because people are graduating, they're 18, they're 19 years old. They don't understand how you get pregnant.
Yes.
Well, so this is what I say to that. The key to helping us change this generational attitude towards sex is to focus on educating parents as well. You know, when we create public curriculum for sex education for children, we are forgetting that the people that have the authority to allow us to educate those children are the parents. So remember when I talked a bit about the chatbot we're working on, it is parent-led. So because one of the things that worries parents sometimes is that when they don't know the scope of what you are teaching their kids. So it feels like we need to teach parents to learn and unlearn some of the things they know. It's a vetting process for us, even in my own organization. Like, okay, when the parents go through that, okay, this is not bad. Actually, this is a healthy way for my... Because how we project it is, this is sexual and reproductive health education that is age appropriate and culturally respective. So you have to... One of the things I've learned over the last few years is the most difficult conversation to have with someone that it feels like what you're doing is against what they hold as a core value. So in as much as, you know how it's a very dicey life. We say we don't like the purity culture or the traditional culture. But some of us, when we have a bit of too much freedom, we're like, well, at least at home, we don't have this much freedom. Like you're even looking for that sort of control for your children. So the key for me is help parents to unlearn. That's the first thing. They should not be shrouded in secrecy, what you're teaching their kids. So when we want to talk about sex education for children, I think schools should now start having PTAs. Run the sex education curriculum through the PTA, by the parents. They are the authorizers for the children. By the time they see the content, and then, you know, you've seen some viral content that's supposedly sex education, but even to you as a parent, you feel like it's too much and it's too offensive. So for me, I feel like if you want to navigate a culture like ours, is one, carry parents along. They will give you feedback in your formative process, and then come to a place where what you're teaching their children, one, they can be rest assured they know what is in there, and they are the approving person saying, yeah, you've not said so much on how to prevent this for this, or I think you can tweak this. Of course, there will always be people that will resist. But I believe that with proper education of parents, they will, they will change their minds. I've had parents bring their children for sexual and reproductive education, and while you're talking, they are even saying more than you, the doctor. They won't do the counseling. Then you see their children rolling their eyes like,
why do parents struggle to communicate this to their children? This is taking, pushing the envelope from what you talked about. Because I know I've experienced some people, some friends of mine who struggle. Catherine, no, you're very vocal. You speak well. Speak to my daughter about this. I've not been able to talk. I don't understand why. You call them the terms that they're known scientifically. You call, that what it is, and you call this what it is. So, but why do we struggle apart from being, for lack of a better word, repressed, as based on societal and cultural blockages? But at the same time, in light of that, how do we then involve the boys? Because most times when you talk about sex education, you're thinking about the girls. So nobody really, the boys are secondary. It's like, oh, that's true. You understand? That's true. So how do we now involve the boys? And mothers, it's easy for mothers to say, Daddy, Ayo, go and talk to Ayo.
No, but it's true, because I have 3 boys, and I cannot lie to you. The first time my son came to talk to me about wet dreams, I locked my door. I was behind. Because I will not lie to you, I couldn't even see him for a whole day because I didn't know what to say. What do I explain? So I buy into your question, because some of us actually pretend. I think we're more comfortable maybe because we're women. But when it comes to our boy children, we're still lacking, honestly, in how to be able to communicate that your bodies are changing and this and that. But for women, it's maybe a bit visible. Once your breast starts to develop, you know something is happening.
Yeah.
But I cannot go and look at my son and say, what's up?
What's up?
What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on?
Oh, well, it's all a learning curve for all of us. That's the honest truth. And I think for boys, like you said, conversations with growing up is easier between boys and men. Sort of like if you have a man figure in your son's life, it's actually easier to have that conversation that way. And what I always say is let this conversation start before the growth process starts. Yeah. So you don't have to wait until you started seeing all the pictures of puberty before you start having the conversations with them. Opening a channel of conversation with children, we know it can be difficult, but if you start early enough, you're most likely going to be lucky. So you've been talking about other things prior to the development of all these adolescents, puberty features coming out on them. I say the first step is from the onset, don't shut them down. I find that for us, a lot of parents, when we're frustrated with children, we just say, whoa, it's okay, leave me alone, like I'm done.
Says it all.
That's
it.
it. But for me, I began to realize that when you are doing that to children, they're already internalizing that, one, either you won't have time, or two, there are things they can't talk to you about.
Yes.
So there's a way that from the onset, even when they bring the weirdest conversations to you, ranging from the characters in their series, or from whatever drama is going on in their classes, in fact, there's no information I don't listen to. Even the one that some of them, as they are saying it, is flying about. You're like, you talk to me, wow. So how did they deal with that? Really? You know, so when those conversations come up, it just comes as one of those things you've been talking about before time. So it's all about opening the channel of conversation early. For guys, my son is still young, so I'm still not experiencing it. He's a really small boy. But I also believe that male role modeling will also help. And then also, as we begin to talk to boys, because I also have younger ones that are male, is that we tend to, on the other end of the purity culture is the sowing of wild oats for boys as well. So when we are beginning to navigate this culture, you know how we protect our girls and tell them the things not to do so that they don't become sexually exploited. In the same vein, we should talk to our boys not to be sexually exploited. Yeah. So those are the things we can talk to them. Consent. When a girl says no, she doesn't mean yes, or she's playing hard to get no. No is no. Like they start that from onset.
Dr. Lewu, because of time, I have to sneak this in, and it's a large part of the reproductive health conversation, and that is, of course, access to abortion. We know that last week, hundreds of women and youth were in the streets of Lagos demanding that the government of Lagos reinstate the suspended Lagos state guidelines on safe termination of pregnancy for legal indication. In terms of access to safe and legal abortions, how ingrained is it as part and parcel of women's reproductive health rights? Very quickly, because of time, unfortunately.
It's not well ingrained. It's work in progress. I know 3 attempts have been made at the national level to legitimize it for even beyond the scope of what it is. And we kind of even don't say illegal. We have restrictive laws around abortion services. Now, the laws have been changing over time, minute movement forward and backward. But it is not helping us because right now we have an average of about 2.5 million unsafe abortions happening in Nigeria. More than half of them are get complicated. So it is a big problem. And it is such a misnomer because we have a huge unmet contraceptive need. Because there are 2 ways to stop an unsafe abortion. Education, abstinence. Now, that is within the control of the woman and her partner. And then we now have access to emergency contraceptives to prevent that. Is that readily available? No. Now we have the pregnancies when they happen. And one of the most difficult things I've realized is that when a girl or woman wants to terminate a pregnancy, there is nothing you can do to stop them. When you don't allow them to do it the safe way, they will do it the unsafe way. It doesn't matter what conversation you have with them. I've done this over the decades. So you can be pro-choice or pro-life, but we have to have this honest conversation that what happens when you meet someone that wants to end the pregnancy they are not ready for, and you as a care provider, you are pro-life. Those are the challenges. It's actually a very difficult conversation, and it's a big conversation, but for each side, they have pros and cons. So it's not to say one person is a bad person and the other person is another. But like I say, I always say people's cultural norms. I've also met people that have successfully had termination of pregnancy maybe in the past, and for one reason or the other, they can't get pregnant. The trauma they go through is actually also huge for a lot of them. So it's a very complicated, messy situation, but we have to sit down and have an honest conversation and find what can be done that is acceptable and realistic.
Wow, thank you so much. This conversation cannot be ending at this table, trust me.
No.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abosede Lewu, consultant obstetrician and gynecologist. Thank you for joining us on Jasiri. This is a conversation we continue to highlight and the complexities and challenges women and girls face when it comes to their rights across the spectrum. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll be taking it a notch higher. Jasiri. Jasiri will be returning.
Why is Lola holding my hand?
Solidarity, sister.
Once again, thank you so much for staying with us on Jasiri. Now, remember, we're streaming live on our social media platforms, and we are at News Central Television. Just a quick reminder, please use the hashtag Jasiri to be a part of the conversation so that we know that you are watching. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Hot Topic! I'm supposed to be doing this every time.
Yeah, I love it. I didn't want to stop.
Welcome back. And today we've got quite the hot topic on our table. We're diving into the recent statement by the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, regarding the government's stance on paying ransom for abducted children.
And so the president was speaking, and he has said that at this point in time, there will be no ransom. And really, when I heard this at first, I couldn't help but wonder about the implications. It's actually a very, very tough call to make. On one hand, you want to ensure the safety and the return of these children, but on the other hand, we simply don't want to encourage more kidnappings by paying ransom. But even as I'm saying that, whether we take the tough stance or not, after the children were kidnapped, after the women, last week, remember, it started with the women in IDP camps, the children in school, there was another kidnapping the following day, and then there was a kidnapping over the weekend. So we're paying ransom, we're not paying ransom, it has become an industry.
I honestly don't even think it's a tough call to make, because it's if you want it to be that, then it should be a system where we can trust you to rescue these children. Maybe not 100%, but if you look at it, how many abducted people have actually been rescued by the security agencies? The only time that the safety is guaranteed, not even 100%, is when the families can raise the ransom. So you asking me not to pay ransom is you saying that I'm giving my child, or God forbid, whatever relative I have there, a death sentence, because you're not going to do anything, I'm not going to do anything, so I just leave them to die.
I do tell you, they're doing everything they can do. Right now, we even heard reports that there are countries that are offering their services to Nigeria to help Nigeria rescue these children. That's being taken into consideration.
Are we toddlers? Are we babies? Is this a propaganda? Is this sponsored? As you know, you started talking, you know me, I always go off on a limbo. And then I was thinking, can this be sponsored? Is it that someone is sponsoring this? Because as Tolu was reeling out the stats, women were kidnapped the other day, then it's kids were kidnapped the other day, and now there's just kidnapping. It's almost as if it's sadaka. It's like a la carte for everybody.
I mean, I get the part of not encouraging these people, because the truth is, if they keep kidnapping and asking for ransom and you keep giving them, they're going to want more. But what is the alternative? That's what we're asking.
Why is everybody even talking about something that is not new? We already have this policy that everybody knows America has this unspoken. We do not negotiate with terrorists. But we are the ones that have this policy down, entrenched, but we went against it a couple of times. So what are we saying? When government officials are the ones contributing money to be able to rescue kidnapped victims, and now saying it doesn't make any impact.
Okay,
because we'll say it, like, oh yes, I'm handing the tough guns, I'm bringing out all my big guns. But in reality, we're not doing that. So it's like talking from this side of the mouth and taking it out of the, we don't negotiate with terrorists, and government officials are paying.
So what are we doing?
And negotiating. Yeah. So the president saying it, I don't think it makes any special impact.
Let's be honest, the way we can get clarity is to put ourselves in the shoes of those whose families get kidnapped. If these officials have family members that are kidnapped, what would you do? Would you pay the ransom, or would you get security agencies to, put them to work until they rescue the people?
Agencies?
Whatever you will do is what you should start thinking of doing Because we cannot be making policies because it's not close to home. It's unfair for you to say that people should not pay ransom when they have families there.
He didn't say people should, again, he ruled out ransom payments from the federal government. He really did not touch, his statement did not touch on ransom payment from families.
From families.
Even if it did, we know that would be very highly insensitive and unempathetic. While we know it's a stance, they do not want to encourage ransom payments, period. They can only enforce what the government is going to do.
Okay, so what if you're not enforcing that and emotions are rife because
emotions are high?
Yeah, because families are desperate
for their loved ones.
Are we now, Baba, you are saying this so calmly. No, the government is not going to be involved in this and all of that. We know that you have a good nose for things, to sniff out, things and all of that. But how do we balance that now? The emotions, how do we balance it?
Yes, I'm even, Tolu,
let's be honest.
Don't we have,
no,
if it's your family children, Tolu, don't we have a Ministry of Defense in this country?
We have Ministry of Interior.
Don't we have Interior
that sits
over everything? We have security operatives, we have the police, we have the army, we have the navy, we have this, we have that. And all the heads of these parastatals are comfortable. Don't they go back to the president to give reports of what they've done? So are we coming every day to say that we are still trying our best?
There was a behind door meeting. That's the terminology. There's a behind door meeting yesterday involving also the minister of the FCT, Wike, as well, also involving Akpabio. All I can remember right now is 287 children. 2 stories have stuck out. The mother whose daughter was feeling feverish and said she didn't want to go to school. The mother said she forced her to go to school. She got kidnapped. And the boy who ran home from school to get a pencil, he went back to school. 287 children. Just a few days later, there's another attack in Kajaru. We're talking about another, how many people? At least 60 people kidnapped by bandits at Buba village in Kajaru local government area on Tuesday.
Almost 500,000.
Almost 500 children.
People have been kidnapped.
No, these are like raising an army for the terrorists. Because the longer these children stay in their coffins, they become indoctrinated. They become mini children soldiers. And how can a nation, what are we even saying? If Chibok is still in our history, tainted, unresolved, so what do you think is happening?
Now, Igbos are saying they want to
help
us. So
at the end of the day, we understand the president's statement, but it's simply not the statement or the action that Nigerians want. Say all you want that you're not going to pay ransom, but right now, Nigeria wants to see back. 287 children make their way back to their families. Unfortunately, we end the show on a very sad note, but we continue to keep the families of these children and the families of several other hundreds of Nigerians who have been victims of kidnapping in the country. We continue to keep them in our prayers, and we hope that there will be reunions for them and their loved ones. A very big thank you to our guest, Dr. Abosede Lewu, for coming on the show today to talk about the politics of women's reproductive health rights. It was Shakespeare who said, "Parting is such sweet sorrow, but we must part to meet again tomorrow." Friday, Hot Topic Special, 10 a.m. West African time. We're going to be here, so make sure you're there.